Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Barry. I make videos on cute and casual games, and today I'll be sharing with you some tips and tricks from my latest obsession. I've put over 60 hours on it in total, and this is Timberborn. The tips and tricks that I'll be sharing with you, kind of in the format of what I wish I knew before starting or what I wish I knew earlier, are things that I've learned from my playthrough on this map, which is Folktails on normal on the Waterfalls map. Now without further ado, let's get started. Number one is to have a game plan. When you first arrive in your map, I recommend pausing the game. Just taking a look at the topography, what's there, do you have cliffs? Where is the bad water coming from? Where are my water sources? How many water sources do I have? What are the possible ways the water could flow, and so on. And really, all this does is help you guide yourself towards something, kind of a plan. I'd recommend thinking about a way to survive droughts by stocking up water, like dams or reservoirs. And then the other thing I would recommend is thinking about how to keep yourself alive during bad tides, which I think are actually harder than droughts. If you are able to, create a contraption that will divert bad tides away from your settlement, kind of like what I have here, then a bad tide really just becomes a drought for you. And so I would recommend thinking about these things before even starting, just so you kind of have a game plan of where you want to go and what you want to accomplish in your save. Number two is that beehives exist, especially for folktales. So it took me a really long time before I found out that beehives exist. When you look at the food tab, you see the gatherer, efficient farmhouse. These two are taught to you during the tutorial, but past that, none of these things are taught to you. When I saw the gristmill and the bakery, I thought, whatever was after that would probably be irrelevant for me in the beginning of the game, but I was pretty wrong because there is a beehive, and to unlock this does cost about 400 research points or science points, and you also need paper, so it might take you a while to get here, but I would recommend unlocking it. It boosts the growth of crops in a fairly large radius. I think that's a 7x7. And according to the wiki, it does reduce the growth time by 30% for farm crops. That's the important term here, farm crops. So it works on sunflowers, potatoes, wheat, carrots, but it also works on underwater farm crops like spatterdock and cattails. It won't work on dandelions, blueberries, or trees. For the aquatic crops, you are going to want to put it above water by using some kind of platform, like so. And I know that putting it underwater does not work because here is the proof, and the building is flooded. There's no bees flying around here. Unlike when you look at the other ones over here, you can see that there's bees flying around. I could not see the measurable difference in this because I'm not sure how to track it, but I believe the wiki, I believe the game, that it does speed up the production time for food, and that does come in very handy. Number three is to not put these beehives on the roads. If you do put them on the roads, especially on really populated roads, your average well-being will go down. As you can see, I have -0 from bee stings because the only beavers getting stung basically are the farmers. Now, if you had put your beehives like on top somewhere where, why isn't it showing up? If you do end up putting your beehives like somewhere like here, the beavers that pass by the roads would get stung. And even a worse suggestion would be putting it somewhere where it covers houses, because they would probably get stung while they're sleeping. So that is one important consideration when you're putting down beehives. Number 4. Some buildings can only do one recipe at a time. When you look at something like the grill, you can see here that it has 3 different recipes. You could either make grilled potatoes, grilled chestnuts, or grilled spatterdocks. For some reason, that made a lot of sense to me that I could only pick one, and that applies to things like the bakeries, which can make either bread, cattail crackers, or maple pastries. That applies to the grist mills, which can make wheat flour or cattail flour. But for some reason, I didn't think that it would apply to the mine. So the mine, you can either get scrap metal or science points. For some reason, I had thought that it would give me both at the same time, but that's definitely not the case. So when I suggest that whenever you're building things, to really look at these icons here to figure out what they are. If you can't figure it out like from the photo, because when you move the mouse it'll just disappear, just click on it, and then while you can hover on the ground, you can also hover here. So it'll say like bread, it'll say like wheat flour and logs. Over the course of one in-game hour will give you bread. Same here on the upper right is how many workers it needs, and that will also tell you how much energy it needs. So these are very, very helpful icons when you're building, so I recommend really taking a look at it before, not just before building, but before putting your science points into it. I may have a lot of science points now, but earlier on in the game, the science points did come very, very, very slowly. Number 5, mining isn't free. When you first need metal, you will probably set up a gatherer flag somewhere close to ruins like these. Sorry that it's night. Ruins like that, or maybe we can see here ruins like these. As your workers collect these, they will start to disappear. It will take some time because something like this is very big, but it will disappear and you will run out of metal. So you will want to look for underground ruins like these ones and build a mine on top of them, like what I've showed earlier. However, it's important to note here that you don't get the scrap metal for free. You do need to put in 1 gear and 1 treated plank to get 2 scrap metal. Of course, these are pretty important. Once you run out of all of these above ground ruins like these, that is going to be the only way that you are going to get metal. So for me in this save, I still have a fair bit of scrap metal, 381, and that's why these aren't running. Also, I'm not really building anything, but just keep in mind and try to look for these spaces. They do take a while to build because they do need a lot, 250 logs, 350 gears, and 200 treated planks, and you would probably need some gears and treated planks stocked up before you even start operating them. Number 6 is to upgrade for efficiency in the game. There's going to be multiple items that you're going to encounter. So in the beginning, a lot of these items won't be very efficient. So take for example the water pump you start with as Folktails. This water pump over the course of a third of an hour will give you 1 water, and that's with 1 beaver working on it. If you get the upgraded pump, the large water pump like this, let's put it over here for now. Over the course of a third of an hour, so in the same period of time, it will give you 5 water and would only need 3 beavers. Now, if you wanted to get 5 water per hour with the same smaller pumps, you would need basically 5 of these. And if you have 5 of those, you would need 5 beavers, in contrast to using a large water pump, which would just entail 3 beavers for the same amount of water. So obviously this isn't only true for these water pumps, they're also true for different buildings. For example, even with power, the windmill, regular windmill generates 150 horsepower per but a large windmill in the same kind of land space, like so, generates 350, I think. How much was it? Is it 300 horsepower? So there's a lot of those kinds of things in the game, and what I would recommend is to not be afraid to, destroy it and rebuild something. Another case for that is storage, like large piles versus underground piles, medium warehouses versus large warehouses, and especially large tanks. Like this one has a capacity of 1,200. This one has a capacity of 300. So you would need 4 of these to match the same capacity. And you can kind of see if I put them differently, kind of like this, you can see that it actually takes up less space to just upgrade it. It will cost more materials and you will need more research points, but in the long run, it is probably better to upgrade things. So don't be afraid to demolish things. The game will give you back some of the materials that were used to build. Number 7 is building scaffolding. In the same vein that you should destroy things to upgrade it, you would probably want to also have scaffolding, particularly to build something like a water tower or a really high dam like this. So the way I built this was I basically just had a lot of platforms going around and stairs like so that they could reach different parts of it. And obviously, after it was built, I just destroyed it and got the materials back. It is a lot of effort, but it is necessary to build something really tall like this water tower, or something like this tower here, which has gravity batteries. So, again, just to reiterate, don't be afraid to destroy things. The game will give you back some of the materials that were used, not all of them, but it is absolutely necessary to build some structures for you to have scaffolding. I don't know if those words made sense, but again, sometimes you need scaffolding to build things, so don't be afraid to build scaffolding first and just destroy it afterwards. Just be careful that your beavers don't get stranded or stuck. Number 8 is that you can have multiple district crossings. So I have here my main town, which is these farmland. This is a really, really big district. And my secondary district is right here. It goes from here all the way here, and it's kind of an industrial zone. So that zone doesn't produce its own water. It doesn't produce its own food. It really just takes inputs from my main district and turns it into something else. So logs, it'll turn it into planks, it'll turn it into paper, it'll turn planks into gears, it'll turn, whatever extra. There's no farms here because it doesn't have a reliable source of clean water, so I just keep it there. Lately I did start having it grow its own pine resin, but that was just really recently. But one of the things I struggled with when I started making the second district was that the second district just was not getting enough water, and I didn't know if it was a settings thing. Was it because I didn't have storage in terms of balancing? I have so much water here, and for some reason back then I couldn't even fill one of these. So after some googling and looking around, I learned that you can have multiple of these district crossings that goes from one district into another. And that means I have now more people kind of collecting items from one district to go to another. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 here and 5 here. And see, they're still not able to fill that water, but it's way, 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 way better than before. So it's important to note that your haulers, they will carry things within your district. So say you have your wheat in the farm, they will carry it all the way to your grist mill, and they'll carry the wheat flour from the grist mill all the way to your bakery, and so on. Clearly you can see my village is not the most efficient thing, but that is what haulers do. Haulers don't pick things up from your warehouse and deliver it to another district. Those are for beavers working at district crossings. They do get the same benefits as haulers with their increased capacity to carry weight, but it's just a very distinct job. So the bottleneck for me back then was because I only had one district crossing, I only had 10 district crossing workers. So now that I have 5, I have 50, and I was able to kind of reduce the haulers that I had as well, because it turns out they weren't even helping. But you can have multiple crossings in between districts to facilitate imports and exports, especially in a case like mine, where one district might not produce its own food, produce its own water, the other district doesn't produce specialized products, and so on. Number 9 is that decor and monuments transcend district boundaries. This might seem really, really straightforward, but I didn't know, and I kind of just took the shot when I built these monuments in between, just right above my district crossings. And you can see this is actually in my main district, but it actually covers a certain portion, a sizable portion of where my second district, my industrial district beavers live. And that basically, if you take a look at this, is enough to provide most of them with all from it, because that's a farmer monument. I also have this other monument, and it works not only on monuments but also decor. I have a scarecrow here and multiple other kinds of stuff. So that kind of stuff does transcend district boundaries. Obviously, things that your beaver has to go to does not. They don't just cross the border. So if you have carousels, you should have them in both districts or all of your districts. And lastly, number 10 was such a game changer for me, and that is having gravity batteries, which are these things that hold energy while there's excess, and then they provide energy when you don't have enough. The reason that that's such a game changer is because you have a few different ways of having energy, of getting energy. One is water wheels, which is pretty consistent provided that there's water, which means you don't get energy when there is a drought. And then you have power wheels, which are powered by beavers running in that thing. And then you have windmills. This is for, obviously, Folktails. It is different for Iron Teeth. So, water wheels dependent on flow of water, windmills dependent on wind. So what happens is, during the day, what was kind of frustrating was when I was only using water wheels, if there was a drought, my beavers won't be working. If there was no wind during the day, my beavers wouldn't be working, but sometimes there would be wind at night. So I recommend having gravity batteries. As you can see, as these water wheels are moving, as those windmills are moving, they would be charging these if they weren't already full. So gravity batteries are able to store more energy during the higher up they are, and there has to be nothing beneath them, and that's why there is basically nothing beneath here. I could make them store more energy by, building higher or blowing up the ground here at the bottom, but so far that has been enough for me. I have another gravity battery here for my main district, and this one is a really massive tower. Each one holds 58,000 horsepower. So whenever there's not enough energy, these blocks will just slowly go down, releasing energy, and whenever there's excess, it'll start pulling the blocks back up. One thing, I don't know if water counts as being in the way for the gravity batteries, but that doesn't matter. Gravity batteries are really, really important for having, consistent working buildings. And that's it for the 10 things I wish I knew before I started Timberborn, or before earlier in the game. Again, I was able to do this on normal difficulty on the Waterfalls map. If you want me to try out Should I try out hard or should I try playing Iron Teeth on normal? Let me know, and let me know if you have other tips and tricks for other people for Timberborn. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye! Now without further